Alrighty.
Feel the healing beat.
I have found the enemy. Come and face me.
So first things first, remember that you're playing a rush comp. And this is going to sound really minor, but like as a rush comp, you really never want to stop moving forward until you get to a spot you really like, right? And if it's not a spot you really like, which like top of the stairs is definitely not, right? You just need to keep going forward until you get a spot you like. This applies if you're Reaper, this applies if you're Mei, this applies if you're Reinhardt. Any of these close range heroes in this rush comp, like just need to keep moving forward until you're at a spot you like. So you get left behind the play, right? So you and Justin both are like way behind your Rein, right? Like you guys have the same move speed, like this shouldn't happen, right? This kind of like separation. So I know there's stuff going behind you. That's really not your concern, right? You can kind of like shoot icicles backwards as you're walking like into like back if you need to. But you really want to like stay with your Rein. Like you need to be tied to the hip with your Rein and just constantly moving forward. You barely get a chance to shoot. Okay. Also, I know you weren't expecting to wall your Rein here, but as soon as like someone starts yelling, drop the wall, or like, or you hear anything that sounds like it was a bad wall, just like drop the wall. Just be always ready to do this. With the, I think the latest patch means you can now drop walls even when you're dead, so I mean that's kind of nice as well. Just be ready to drop the wall just in case, right? Don't drop the wall immediately, but you know, as people start saying like help, or like just like I'm walled, just like then you drop it, right? Or drop a wall. Just keep an ear for that. Also overfreeze there. That's a kind of a micro thing, but you lose a lot of damage if you overfreeze. So just try to get the requisite number of stacks. If you're not really sure, it's 3.2 seconds of total freezing time. The gun is a projectile though, so like when you start freezing, shooting the freeze, that's not actually when you start applying the freeze. And likewise, you can like freeze, finish freezing while you're charging your right click. And obviously, when there's like a squishy, right? If it's a Genji or Tracer, like you just hold it until you freeze them because like you can't. It's hard to accurately figure out how much you're freezing, but you want to get a feel for how many stacks it actually takes to freeze people. And like listen for like the tick markers and stuff like that, and also just like for things like Diva, like not moving, you can just kind of time it.
The objective is now.
This fight is not over yet.
Get behind.
Online. Behind you.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Eureka.
So this has all been like okay, but not like great. So like I'm sure you even noticed like there's like lots of like small inefficiencies that are like kind of piling up on themselves. Also, side note, like freezing priority target's really good, but a ball trying to run away is generally not a priority target unless your team is focusing him, right? So what happens here is so you obviously when we're running into the fight, you want to try and find a wall, right? You weren't able to, so you had to run down all the supports the hard way. Kind of sucks. Also, again, stay with the play. Like this doesn't matter really. Like your supports are like Lucio Moira, they'll be fine, right? In fact, if you get left behind, you're actually way more likely to be in trouble than those two, right? And like behind is like a diva, right? Like these three heroes will be fine, right? There's no question, right? You just gotta stay with the play. Also being able to like freezing like the support as you're running is good, but if you just wall them and stop them from getting out in the first place, right? That's also a big deal. And that way like you don't have to even chase them, like they're just stuck in front of you, you just kill them, right? This wall is fine. But again, like your Rein is on the left. He is his shield just broke and he's trying to live, right? So freezing this guy's good, but again, you want to stay with your Rein and you don't want to chase this ball, right? Headshot, right? Like it is time to like I know this is like staring you in the face, but like you can try to freeze him again, but you want to be moving away from the ball because the ball is leaving your team and you want to stay in formation, right? So I know this obviously doesn't feel like it, but your team is like moving towards the main, right? Very like distinctly, and you want to stay with them, right? And focus the things they're focusing. The ball is kind of not that high up in your priority of list. Also, uh, this these walls are doing a lot of teammate blocking. Unfortunately, I don't remember what the comms are here like. I don't think Mason called that for you to drop the wall, but like it's been happening a lot, which is kind of unfortunate. I think the wall was fine though, but you know, like you're just committing too hard.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
This guy's good. Don't chase, right? Like again, you're just making sure this guy like doesn't get any value of his ult, so you just freeze him until he leaves, and then you go back and rejoin your team. So your Ryan's dead, unfortunately. So you need to find a spot to regroup, right? You can call the regroup on you, or you can try to find your teammate to regroup with them, but like, you do need to like restack to some in some regard here.
I'm under attack!
Let's see this.
Again, freezing the ball is okay, but it's not very important, right? There's lots of other problems, right? Like the D.Va is like a way better freeze target because if you freeze her, she's much more likely to die. This ball you were freezing him when he had like the full overshield stack, so he had like 1200 HP, and it's just like he's invincible. You can go for like freeze ticks on like the Echo or the Tracer, or you can just try to like wall main and like focus the tanks, right? So if you want to focus tanks, right, you wall main so they can't get help, right? And then you focus tanks. But walling here to get to point is fine, but again, your team needs to be on board. Should Ryan like in the wall? Oh, okay. But your team needs to be on board, right? And that means you need to be doing things like not focusing like the tanks in that case, right? We're trying to get into the site so we can like, you know, have control and focus like the squishies on point. But we just take a lot of really bad trades here. It's not, again, this isn't entirely your fault, but the Mei is like a really crucial component, and you have a lot of like executive power on where the team plays, because like you're like a very like frontal figure in the team, right? You're up there with Ryan. That's kind of a low percentage Blizzard. Blizzard against dive in general is always kind of low percentage, because it's just kind of hard. This is also a team comp, for example, like after a first fight, it would have been totally okay to swap to something like better against this, like Tracer or Sombra or even McCree, to be honest. McCree is probably not the best, but if your team can live, like, or if you can live rather, then it's okay. But you do need things that are like more resilient, or sorry, you do need things that like have better matchups into dive. Blizzard as an ult is just kind of bad. So one thing you might have been able to do, for example, is like, I mean, you sort of ran in, right? You ran into here to throw a Blizzard, but there was a D.Va on your left that you had to run through, which probably should have eaten the Blizzard, to be honest. And then like you saw the Zen trans into your backline. So there was actually nothing here to Blizzard, right? So just keep in mind that like you're actually blizzarding things that can't move already, right? So you want a Blizzard like Brig, you want a Blizzard Zen, right? But the other four heroes like maybe not so much. If you want a Blizzard to tank, you have to freeze them first, right? You freeze, you Blizzard, or you start applying freeze stacks first, and then you Blizzard, and then you freeze, right? Or you freeze and then Blizzard, depending on like how mobile they actually are. And you just keep trying to freeze them, and so you can actually keep them stunned for like 8 seconds or whatever, and that's enough to kill one of these tanks. But you can't actually like freeze them just like with Blizzard, because they're going to get away. Alright, we get the D.Va. Yeah, against if you get an iffy wall though, as long as like it's not losing your team things, then you probably want to drop the wall, or not want to drop the wall, because one of the reasons why 10-second wall was so oppressive was because when you get the wall up, the cooldown starts while the wall is up, right? So it has 5-second duration, and it's currently got what, a 13-second cooldown, something like that, 12 maybe? I think it's 13. But that means it effectively has an 8-second cooldown if you leave the wall up the whole time, right? In terms of like downtime, 8 seconds of downtime. But if like you take it down immediately, now there's a big window where you like you've left the space you walled open, and you have no wall, and you're like you have an extra long wall cooldown. So you just want to like kind of like, unless it's like objectively a bad wall, you kind of just leave the wall up most of the time. And also in regards to Tracer, you generally don't want to try to freeze her that much. You just want to keep her threatened with a constant like potential of like a headshot, right? And just keep throwing icicles at her. Any shot you hit forces a recall generally. And if you hit a headshot, she just dies, right? So freezing just takes too long. It's just generally not very worth it. Creatures love like just the damage they hit first. Right, so you like it doesn't matter like what her HP is there. Like she's just not very threatened by the freeze, right? We talked about like how this is a rough matchup, so I'm not sure how this is. Oh, the sound. Okay. I think that I remember this matchup was better. I think. Let's watch this. Oh god.
5,
Alright.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, turn it up.
Everyone splits up. Unfortunately, we regroup. All right. I think we talked about how this wall is just much easier to hit from here, right? You just play the backside of point. You shoot anyone, like you fight these guys who are trying to come over here, right? And then like you just turn, get the quick wall, block the choke, and you're good, right? Just make sure you hit that wall, don't miss it. And then you should win this fight the majority of the time. Yeah, just stick out with you and the Moira. Just like fight this guy off, and then like, yeah, do your thing. This wall is way harder to decide. Again, freezing like these DPS, especially these mobile guys with the Echo, like it just like if you look how much damage you did the Echo, like it got healed by Brig healing, right? Just like innately. And like you did and all you did was pressure a fly out a little bit. So like it's just way better to shoot her, right? Just shoot her with the right click, you get more damage. The damage will stick harder, and it makes her think twice about what to actually do, right? Good wall. Good wall. Flashbang.
Asking for it. Fire. Well,
Freeze is good, but you're just freezing a lot of people you probably shouldn't be. So whenever there's a lot of people clumped together, freeze is really good. Whenever you're going for tanks, freeze is really good. Whenever you're going supports even, like just like people with no mobility, freeze is really good, but against people with mobility, freeze is very lackluster. So just go for icicles instead.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Or in situations where like you just need the burst damage, right? So if you're against like you know, like a DPS 1v1, you just need to settle the fight, right? Icicle's the way to go.
Yeah, time to heal up.
起来吧。
Back half the point. Good. You should just wall this, right? Like either wall the choke. Like whatever wall you hit here is probably a good wall. Just anything that's not behind them, right? So if you wall the choke, you wall the window, right? Either wall is a good wall. You just need a wall here. Like as soon as this comes out, like May wall is one of the best answers to BAP window in the game. So because you can just prevent people from using it, right? Or just like put it in front, and now they have to shoot through the wall before they can use the window. Yeah, you just need to put a wall anywhere from between this choke and the window, and it's probably a decent wall. Just gotta that's what you gotta just do. So that wall came late, and it was also too far.
不洗澡。
This blizzard was unfortunate. They had the window, they got too much value off it, so this blizzard was just too late. It did freeze literally everybody, but it just wasn't early enough into the fight. I know you didn't have it, but like because it came too late, you probably should just not use it in general, right? Like having the blizzard super strong for when you need to go point, and when they finally come point, then you wall blizzard, like the fight's over, right? So gotta save the value ults.
That could have gone better. Hi.
I think we've talked about this before in the audience. I just emphasize like how important that is. That probably wasn't the wall. All right, so in this case, what happened here is that they're flex high nooning, right? So in the case of high noon follow up to Deadeye. Like I'm sure you know how it works, right? They're trying to shoot us out of the sky more or less, or like when we land, they just blow us up with the burst damage, right? So the most important thing you can wall here isn't like the follow up to us landing. It's blocking the high noon, right? So that means instead of looking at the ground, we should be looking at the McCree and seeing if we can block him with the wall, right? And that's just priorities, right? So here, like we'll probably live through the flux, but we won't live through the high noon. There's just no way, right? I mean, there technically is a way, but it's very unlikely we all survive this high noon, right? So we just need to wall the high noon, and we can survive the flux follow up. Like, there's no problem with that. We have no wall here. We have no blizzard. We're not really looking to do much. All right, quick wall, but it's too late.
Hey, 我又回来啦！
We go one more fight. Get in, nice. Dive, take those. This is really good freeze. Alright, too many ults. Oh well. Yeah, that's a situation, by the way, where you should just start lining up a headshot with your icicle before you even finish freezing. Before you even really like get that much freeze. So right here, you've already slowed this guy enough. Just go for the headshot burst, right? Or just like icicle burst at least, right? You see his health bar, and you see like that you've hit him enough with freeze that he's slow, right? So either he's going to shift, in which case you can't kill him with freeze, or he's not going to shift, in which case you kill him faster with icicle anyways, right? And if he shifts, you still might hit him with the icicle, so you still might kill him. But you should pretty much always icicle in this instance, right?
Team kill.
Like you applied some pre-stack, he's already slow. You see his health bar.
Don't worry, my friend.
The power of destruction.
This is some general advice. It looks like you're trying to like aim individual icicles. With Mei, a lot of the times you just kind of like hold down right click whenever you're spamming icicles, and then you just kind of flick aim like the timing of the shot, right? And you just kind of hold right click, and that way you're always shooting. So because you're a projectile, and this is how like you farm, you get like spam, right? So like when you play Genji, you just kind of throw shurikens here, assuming somebody's going to walk into one eventually, right? And if no one ever walks into one, then you have information because no one went this way, right? So it's Mei, you can just keep spamming here. There's no reason to stop shooting. Trying to like react to this, your gun is like is kind of like clunky if you try to react shoot to things, right? You just kind of hold down the button and then just like spin around. What you need to do. Right, so like you should just be spamming the show, right? Just keep shooting at it, and instead of waiting for someone to come out, because there's just too much delay in the shot, right? You'll just build way more ult. This is only your second build so far. Yeah. So we were probably too passive here, but again, we didn't have control of the high ground. But you also just need to look for an earlier opportunity to ult. When things are going wrong, yeah, that's when you need to get really aggressive just to turn it, right? Just ult really aggressively, get your wall and blizzard out as soon as you can. I know the wall came out here, but just like start using your abilities, because that's the only way you realistically turn this, right? Yeah. Or you give up the fight, right? That's totally valid as well. If you want to give up the fight, that's valid, but generally speaking, you want to try and ult early to see it'll change things. I know there's contradictory with what we talked about the last blizzard, because 2 people died immediately, and that's your rationale. That's totally fine. Just keep in mind that like, if you do need to win this fight, I kind of for some reason thought it was last fight. But if you do need to win the fight, you have to. Alright, next map.
Ready for battle.
Alright, you're playing Soldier. Do you see on this? So this is a common problem with your tracers in general, is that like you just kind of like play with your team. With Tracer you really need to flank in order to find openings.
4, 3, 2,
We'll
1.
talk about the details of that.
Wicked!
So here, you should probably just turn around. Oh, you do? Okay. See which way like your team's leaning towards, and then decide to go the other way. So generally speaking, your team wants to go right side, just as a general rule, right? Like teams come right, right. And so like if you're not sure, right, just start going left because generally speaking, your team will go right. So just start going left, and then decide from there, right? If you go left and then you see your team is also going left, and you see that tracer going around the right side, then you want to like stick around this area and challenge her, right? You can fight her, you can play for the mega, you can like just play it on your side of the choke, and just like of the door, and like rely on your team to help you out, right? With healing. This works a lot better when you have Zen or Ana. You have an Ana here, so it should work out. But yeah, you want to like play your team's flank. And in this case, you're not sure, so you should just go this way, right? When in doubt, take the less traveled path. So you do scout, you see what they're all doing. You see the tracers on your close right.
Enemies in our orbit.
So this is problematic because you didn't keep going. So in this case, right, if you look at your angles to get to the enemy team, this guy is your target most of the time, right? This is the guy you want to go on. Like you can shoot other people, but this is like where it's at. Plus the echo sometimes when she's on the ground. I have no idea where she is though. Oh, she's up here. So that's not really your thing unless she falls to the ground, which happens pretty regularly, but you need to wait for it, right? You can only wait for it if you're behind her and watching her when she's not paying attention. There's no one who can see you, right? But anyways, like in order to get the Zen, right, the only realistic paths to get to him, right, are either all the way from their spawn, right, unrealistic most of the time, from this side, which is pretty realistic if he's not looking, or over here, right, the more direct path. But either way, all of them come from this side of the map, right? You have to get to this part of the map first before you can make the decision whether to go this way, or go all the way around if you're feeling crazy, right? You might technically be able to flank across this. I don't remember how many blinks it takes. Oh, is that what their tracer's doing? It looks like it. Yeah, but you need to get here, and they beat you here, so you can't do this, right? There's no world in which you get from here, like the point, to here without the Zen noticing you and doing and reacting to it in some kind of way, either by like backing to pillars, calling for his brig to stand right here, right, or playing back in this corner and just like hiding away from you, making it really hard to engage, right? But there's no world in which you do this by crossing points, so you have to go left, right? I know like your team is calling to go this way, but you don't listen to what your team says to do, right? You're just listening for their timing, right? You want to time your stuff for when the enemy team is doing things or when your team's doing things, but your positioning has no relevance to what their positioning has no relevance to what how you should be like pathing around the map, right? So they're here, right? Just keep going through the stairs. Like you don't listen to what your team's doing, right? All right, like just look, it feels terrible, right? Like what can you do from here? In the end, you just come right back out and you fight here, right? Like just don't, because you drop again, right? And the problem is like now you're stuck in a situation where like nothing's really changed. We're still stuck in it. It's terrible. You just like all the spam flying into the door. You just kind of catch and die. That's what we want to be doing this shit. Like if your team had rotated down here and you were just camping out over here, you would realize that the Zen's totally alone, right? Like the brig is like committed, right? And we kill the brig even. So then at that point you just go around and you just go for the Zen and he's free, right? Because he's by himself.
Back to work.
Swapping? Not swapping. Okay. Yeah, so like if we look at where we ended up, we're right next to our tanks, right? Both of them. Yeah, you just want to take different paths, right? You just don't want to be here, right? I understand there was a tracer over here, but you really kind of don't want to tussle with the enemy tracer if you don't have to. So it'd be much better if you pushed out this way, and then you might even like find like duel the echo, and like your hero's supposed to win these duels, so you know, it's a free kill. Not free, but you know, like you would eventually kill this guy, or he'd run away, right? And then in that case, now you've won control of the mega. And now you have a total free path to their backline, right? And if like you're coming through here, as your team gets here, like this Zen doesn't know what to do, right? Where is he supposed to go? Like back all the way over here? I mean, he can, but like we can force it pretty hard now, right? And either way, even if we don't force it, right? We have control of pillars, and pillars means we have point because if we're in pillars, we can shoot at anybody who's hiding on point, right? And there's nowhere they can hide to get healed, right? So the reason why this spot's normally hard to like points are normally hard to take if you don't have pillars control, right? is like if nobody's pillars control, if I'm being shot at, right, I back into the cubby, and I can get healed from my supports, right? Yeah, or I can like back into this cubby, and I can get healed by my supports. But notice both these spots can be shot by pillars, right? So if you have pillars control, you can shoot at anyone hiding on point, and there's no point on there's no area on point that's safe, which is why pillars control dictates points, right? So once we have once we have this control, right, either like we kill the Zen or we force him to like hide in Africa, right? If he hides in Africa, then we just shift somebody over to point and we have it because they can't actually sustain on point. Um, in either case, like we should try to get to them, and if they don't react to us, then we just go and kill them, right? So, but you can only go and kill them if you're on this side of the map, right? This side of the map is just too hard to cross as a tracer.
Engage. Honor. Your call down. Get in there.
Correct. Yeah. The fight was just too hard. We also screwed up with our backline. We talked about that in VOD review, like not playing our backline, and we played our backline too far back and our front line too far forward. But in either case, like again, it would just been a lot easier if you just played from this side of the map, as opposed to like using like double blink. Like you kind of do you remember how like you double blinked over to them, recalled, and then had to work your way back over to shoot them, right? Imagine if you just only had to use one blink to get in, or no blinks to get in, right? Like it's a whole different game. Tracer's all about conserving blinks before you get to the fight, right? Like you blink if you need to for the timing, right? To get your team to time your entrance with your team. But if you don't have to do it, even better, right?
Enemy contact.
Again, you're going the same path as your team as opposed to the flank, right? Also, naturally, just by like taking the flank, you'll naturally push out people from just like walking into your backline for free, right? So just by standing in this room, right, just waiting and playing this mega, you stop this tracer from getting into our backline for free just by being here, right? And if you win this exchange, then you push her back to this room, and now you have control over this area, right? And then like if for example you get your supports out, right? Now your supports are here, right? Your tanks can start pushing out, right? And now the Ana can push out to here and heal you on this side of the map as well from over here. And you just keep pushing out like that, and eventually, like by just standing in this general area, you protect your supports, right? Because like again, Ball can only is most effective when he has time to stage, right? Tracer, same deal. They're most effective when they've had time to set up on your supports, right? So just by walking over here, you're now fighting them in the staging area, and this is interfering with their ability to dive, to dive properly, right? Don't dive for it, but you know, you get the idea. Sorry. And we look where the Tracer's going, right? Tracer's here, Ball's here, right? This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Like when you're attacking, or sorry, whenever you're defending, right? In some way, you need to defend defend your support. So sorry, I'm not thinking too clearly right now. Yeah, as a general rule, as Tracer, you're either flanking to get to their backline, or you're playing on the off angle of your backline to defend them from flankers, right? Generally speaking, when you're defending, it's better to defend than it is to flank. But in this case, right, like we can't get into the map if you don't defend, right? So you have to defend. Defend first, then flank second, right? But this Tracer's gonna get this Tracer's gonna get free access to our backline, right? I don't know realistically if you could have stopped the Ball from doing this, but you can at least make him lower health going in, right? Make it more risky. You have double CC, you might die. But yeah, this is gonna get ugly in a couple seconds. Let's get through this.
Wait for it.
Nice pulse buff.
Observe the battle.
Alright, now you go this way. Good. Oh, unfortunate. That was probably your job to touch. Again, also, don't focus on these people. Oh god, the screen went to black. So don't focus on these people, right? It's a rally brig, right? It's a tracer, right? These are heroes that are actually kind of hard to kill, right? You want to be killing this guy who's by himself as a Zen, right? That's what you want to be going for, right? So if you get to this point and you see that like they're all over there, all fighting, right? Like maybe you shoot over this guy, and then like assuming you don't have to go to point, right? Then like maybe blink up over here, or just go all the way around to begin with. And if you run into the echo, you run into the echo and you just fight the echo, right? And I mean that takes you to point anyway. So if you need to go point, you have to go point, right? and then once you're on point, you fight the Echo because she's closest. And then if you kill her, then you can, and you don't need to touch point anymore, right? Someone else has got point, then you can start going around to get to the Zen, right? And now he has to pick between retreating, right, contributing to this fight, looking at you, or like he has to make a decision at that point. And if like he takes the duel, like you have this mini, you have that mega, right? There are things you can do to pretty easily win that duel, even if he's like watching you from the start. But yeah, like again, this is not your fight, right? This is your fight. This is your fight, right? So pick your targets wisely as Tracer. Flank around the map. Don't follow the same way as your tanks if you don't have to. Set up by like setting on the flank so you can get concave dives, right? So you're diving from or like you're attacking from multiple points as opposed to just like going in with your team. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you watch the video all the way to this point, DM me what 2 + 2 equals.